5-hour drive to Pella, Iowa today. So it's going to be a long day for us. Good, honey.
Well, thank you. Not very far, so we should be good.
Yeah, I think it looks fine.
Okay.
On my end, anyway.
Yeah.
You close enough to the box here?
Close enough. And we're pretty straight.
Okay.
I think we're good.
These bugs are hard. This is our site, number 14 in North Overlook Campground in Pella, Iowa. Ryan's getting her unhooked there. Every May, Pella puts on a Tulip Festival. The Sundial was installed just prior to Tulip time in 1991 and gifted to the community from Heritage Lace Incorporated. The Sundial dates back to 2000 BC in Babylon. It has two fixed metal parts, the dial, also known as the plane, with hour markings, and the arrow-shaped stylus, aka gnomon, which casts a shadow across the plane as the sun moves overhead from east to west. The stylus points to the North Star with an angle equal to the latitude of Pella. As the sun moves across the sky, the stylus's shadow moves across the ring-shaped plane, falling upon the hour marks. The sundial is completely accurate because it tells the exact solar time for this location.
All these are open for you to explore. I always advise people to read the black part by your number so you know what you're getting into. These 4 here are original buildings built in the 1800s.
Okay.
This one has a 2nd floor, and this is the boyhood home of Wyatt Earp.
Oh, okay.
And that has 2 floors, and it has it's an audio exhibit. You pick up a device and listen to the script. If you listen to the entire script, it's 40 minutes.
Okay.
So, but that's up to you. We have a lot of Wyatt Earp fans here who do that. So, yeah, and you could go into this Sculty Church and down a corridor here and into this building. This is our Heritage Hall, and my favorite place out there happens to be the 2nd floor. There are mannequins dressed in the costumes of the provinces and set in little vignettes. And there's a beautiful Gouda pottery display. That's a pottery that's not as well known as the Delft, but it's also from the Netherlands. So,
Okay.
and yeah, this doesn't. We'll just circle this. Be back here in the hallway at 2:30.
Okay.
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you so much. This is the original pioneer log cabin.
You have your microphone on?
No.
Sausage grinder. Late 1700s, early 1800s. So this cabin represents the earliest dwellings in Pella.
This was lived in until 1936.
They had 800, how do you say that? Schulte settlers arrived in the area, and only 29 cabins or blockhouses were built. This cabin was moved and reassembled on the site in 1968. The fireplace was added at that time. Thomas Tuttle Cabin is the residence of the first settlers in Pella. Thomas and Nancy built the cabin by themselves in 1843. It's still located at 608 Lincoln Street. In 1847, from May to June, 4 ships arrived in Baltimore, Maryland, sailing from the Netherlands. The settlers then traveled through Pennsylvania to St. Louis, Missouri, then from St. Louis to Iowa, eventually making way to Pella by wagon. The basket in the corner is an old cloth-covered wicker basket used to hold food for the ocean voyage. Roofs consisted of branches covered with prairie or slow grass, straw or reeds. Doors of sackcloth and sod block chimneys completed the somber exterior of what came to be called stoish and sod. So the steps were to dig a cellar, cut the sod bricks, lay the sod upside down, place roof timbers, thatch the roof. They were often completed within a week.
Hello. I can't find my shoes. taking the tour?
Yes, we are.
We are?
Oh,
No, I guess we are.
that-
Do we have time?
no.
Oh, we don't. But it is available, guys, if you'd like to
Yeah.
come and take a Wyatt Earp tour.
It's an audio tour, so you use one of these things here and hold it up to your ear, and then it's an audio self-guided tour.
Who's behind the curtain?
I don't see any stairs yet.
Look back there, honey, and see if you see the wizard. And it's Ryan behind the curtain.
Oh.
This looks refreshing.
They actually use this.
Oh, look, it's an old cookie cutting machine. This is another cookie cutting machine. Yes, that breeze does feel good. We're headed back. It's about time for our tour. Let's take a seat. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So my name is Trisha and I'll be your tour guide today. But we're gonna go up into our miniature village and our windmill as well. But I'd like to start down here in the base of our windmill because this is actually where the milling process begins. And I just like to share then how Pella was formed as well. So Pella was founded in 1847 when a group of 800 Dutch came here from the Netherlands. Now they came here for religious freedom. So when they were over in the Netherlands, their leader Dominee Scholte was arrested several times for his teachings. So they decided to sell everything and move here to America. And so they eventually landed in St. Louis and sent out scouts and then finally settled here in Iowa. And because of that Dutch heritage, we knew pretty early on that we wanted to have a windmill here that people could come and see and that we could actually do some milling for fun. And so talks to build this windmill began in the 1940s. And in fact, if you look at that model right there, that was built in the 1980s. So in the 1980s, we knew two things. Number one, we knew that we wanted to be an 1850 style windmill because we wanted to represent the time that we were founded. And then the second thing we knew is that we wanted to be an agricultural mill because Iowa kind of likes agriculture just a bit. And so we wanted to represent that as well. So that's how we came to decide what type of mill we have. Now, if you listen, I do say 1850 style. Our windmill was not built in the 1850s. It actually was built in the early 2000s. If you look there, that is the group of gentlemen that built our windmill. The company's named Vermeer, and so they built the windmill over there in the Netherlands, and then they dismantled it, brought it over here, and then as you can see here, they then put it all back together on top of our pedestal that we had built. We did have to build a 4-story pedestal to set our windmill on, because crazy thing about windmills, you have to reach the wind to capture it. And since we already had some big, beautiful buildings here in town, we actually had to build up then our windmill a little bit so that way we could capture the wind and be a true working windmill. And so that's how we inadvertently became the tallest working windmill in North America. So this is a map of the Netherlands. Another stands for low-lying, land is land or region. And that makes a lot of sense because the majority of the Netherlands is either at or below sea level. In fact, the two things that the Dutch are really synonymous for are windmills and the wooden shoes, the klompen. And those were both because it's below sea level. So the first windmills that they pulled in were actually water moving windmills. So how those worked is there'd be like an Archimedes screw that was in the ground, and then as the sails turned, that screw would turn, pulling water up out of the ground and into a trough that would push it to the canals that would then take it to the North Sea. And then they would wear wooden shoes because, again, if there's a lot of water in the land and you're wearing leather shoes, number one, they were not going to hold up well, and number two, your feet would be wet all the time. And I don't know about you, but that would make me a cranky person all the time. So they brought in the wooden shoes because that kept them above the water line and also kept their feet dry and warm. Now, to get an idea of the size of the Netherlands, you can see our very large state of Iowa here, and you can see that the Netherlands fits comfortably within our state. But where we have 3 million residents, they have 18 million residents within the Netherlands. Store around the outside edge, it's seasonal, so it goes spring, summer, fall, winter with the snow. And then this section, with the exception of these two buildings over here, is part of historic Amsterdam. And then that big section in the middle is a village in Friesland called Kendall. So you're welcome to walk around. Like I said, you take photos, videos. You don't touch anything because it's very fragile. And if you have questions, I am happy to answer them. Long time before that. In fact, it was around during Roman and Viking times, but it also went over Germany. So the top part of Germany used to be Frisia, which is why you sometimes hear people call it West Frisian. Come up with all of that. So they had to put in just to live there. I feel like if the king was bad in the house, I'm not buying it. All I do is think this. Obviously, I couldn't see a good Dutch person. So you do get a lot of rain, but it's not terrible. Yeah. We go, we went there this last December too to visit family, and it was in the 50s, but nothing like what we see here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not nearly that bad.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, I think that's cool to see. Theirs is an authentic one from the 1800s.
Yes, and it gets, there's a woman who was
He was one of the guys that built our windmill, was a little guy. So he comes over every other year and helps train millers. And then he has a training program now within it because there's some millers that can help train others.
that's good, so it's not a loss.
But yes.
Well, welcome to the top of the windmill. Anybody tell me the purpose of a windmill? Why build a windmill in the first place?
Harness the power of the wind.
Thank you, 100%. Yes, so it's a wind-powered machine. So we can even use this technology today. Can't really see it because it's so hazy, but actually you can sort of see it. Over on the distance, there's some of those white Mid-American Energy windmills. You can just barely see them above the tree line over there. But same idea, right? Capturing the power of the wind to generate electricity. Here we're capturing the power of the wind to actually grind grain into flour. But windmills have been used over the centuries to do that, to pump water, saw lumber, create pigments, make vegetable oil, whatever you want to do. It's all about capturing the power of the wind to turn some sort of machine. So our windmill was built in the Netherlands about 20 years ago, built in the style of the 1850s. When you get inside, you'll see it's a lot of big timbers, and about the only nods to modern technology would be the electricity and our fire suppression system. Our stone is a composite as opposed to something you would have got out of the quarry, but otherwise everything's built like it's been done for centuries, frankly, in the Netherlands. So to capture the power of the wind, there's really two elements that take place out here first to get our machine running. And so we'll talk about those first, and you guys can go inside and see what that transfers to internally. So just as you guys came out, I was glad the wind shifted sort of the way that it did just as you got here, because we were able to get this turning. The windmill is 100% powered by the wind. We don't have any way to like go flip a switch and it starts turning. It's all about capturing the power of the wind. So the first thing the miller does when he gets here in the morning, goes up to the top and runs the flag up the flagpole to determine which direction our wind is coming from. Ideally, we want the windmill to be facing the wind. We want the wind hitting those sails head on for maximum power. And as you can see, ideally, we want the flag to be pointing right down this tail beam, because that tells me that my sails are right into the wind. And as you can see, the wind is having fun with me this afternoon, and I'm off quite a ways. But just half an hour ago, it was coming exactly straight on, and it was going so fast. We had so much power that I actually took a couple sails off because I didn't think it needed to go that fast. And now it's going from 90 degrees different direction. So we have a saying, millers have a saying, many sayings, but one of them is don't chase the wind. So what I would do if I wanted to move the windmill and turn it to face the north and get this all lined up, what we do is unspool this chain and hook it to an anchor point further down the deck, and then start turning this oversized wheel to reel up the chain. And as I start cranking in the chain, this whole apparatus is going to pull towards my anchor point, and then that in turn turns the top of the windmill. That whole top, you see like the blue eaves up there, it's all kind of on a cast iron roller system. And even though that cap weighs 20 tons, when you figure in the weight of the sail stocks and the wind shaft and the gears that are up there, one person can turn it with this. It's all about the power of leverage, because we got this big oversized wheel, gives you enough leverage to crank up that chain and roll that thing on its rollers. So once we get it lined up, ideally, like I said, have the flag pointing down the tail beam here, then we go around and do the other part of the equation and put our canvas on the front. But that's the two things: get the windmill into the wind, and then put out our sails to capture as much wind as we can. It's like, as I said, today's been a little off and on because the wind keeps changing direction, and sometimes it's strong and sometimes it dies down. But it illustrates the point that it's powered by the wind. If we don't have any wind, we're not going to grind any grain or pump any water.
Like he said, he starts every day out there and gets everything situated. So once he gets the sails facing the wind, he gets the amount of sail out that he wants to be able to run it. Now I say that's how it normally works with a miller. We don't mill every day, so we mill about every 6 to 8 weeks, and only 1,000 pounds at a time. So although they set up outside every day, that doesn't mean that this process happens every day.
It's a big stone.
Another really cool thing that's up here on display is this wheel right here. So the cap of our windmill actually does not. The other thing that you see here, this is ironwood. So this is what the decking is made out of. It's a very strong piece of wood. It'll sink if you put it in water, so don't make a boat out of it. But you also have to have a diamond saw to be able to cut it, because it'll tear up and chew up any regular saws. But that shows that decking is very strong as you're standing out there. there.
What kind of tree is it?
Ironwood tree?
Ironwood tree?
Yeah, so we have some ironwood trees actually in the Carolinas, but ours, this comes from West Africa because it has more iron in it than what we'd see in America. But it has a lot of like metal in the ground that then feeds into the tree and you get an ironwood tree. More things, we have a couple more rooms to look at. I will say we took this first floor that you can see down here. That's their workroom, and really it's a sifting machine and some deep freezers.
I was up way up there and I made it. Whew.
There we go. Looks like I'm going to the casino.
Yeah, that's right.
So, for engine starting, that's great, but I'll kind of show you how I teach people.
Okay.
So go ahead and do mixture full rich.
That's full.
So all the way in.
All
So,
the way in,
Yep,
okay.
you can push the button and then all the way in. Yep.
Okay.
And then go ahead and push the throttle in and out 2 or 3 times.
Prime the carb.
Good way of priming the carb. Yep. And then crack it open about 1/4 inch. So when you go to start, you'll have one hand on the throttle and you're starting it just like a car. So
Okay.
once it starts, release.
Okay.
Spring loaded so it goes back to bolt. So whenever you're ready, clear.
I tell people they go right to the brakes, and I say no, get off the brakes. Good job. That was a good one. Thanks.